John, thank you for being here. We're a few minutes behind, but it's so good to have all of you here. Thanks for being here. And let's settle in for a short time of meditation. Take a deep breath. Thank you. Thanks. And allow the presence, the peace, the power that God is. Be present right now. Feel that presence resonating in you, through you, as you. Feel that presence filling the room, surrounding all of us, opening our hearts, strengthening every cell in our bodies. Feel the presence of God. Let us go into the silence for just a minute as we connect with this loving presence. We open the eyes of our heart. We open the eyes of our mind. We open ourselves to truth, to peace, to wholeness, health, to God. We open ourselves to our true nature. And we invite that true nature to come forth as us. Knowing there is no separation from us and God. There is only oneness. There is only oneness. Hear these words from Scripture. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know. Be still. Be. Breathe into that and be the presence of Spirit right here and right now. And we give thanks, and so it is. Amen. Allow yourself to gently come back, wiggling your fingers, your toes, feeling the chair where you are sitting. When you are ready, open your eyes. Thanks. That helped me. I hope that helped you. Unity is centered in prayer. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for prayer and meditation. I have gotten to see some of the responses, and if any of you have homework that from last week that you would like to turn in, I would love to see it. Some of yours I already read and turned back to you because I'm real interested, especially in number 5 from last week, about what it is that makes unity unique. And it's different for different people, you know. I think Mala listed about 10 things that made unity unique. Wendy listed about 8 things maybe. there's quite a few things that make us unique. I don't know if this is a uniqueness or not, but it is something very special about unity, is that we're grounded in prayer. If there is, how do I want to put this? If there is anywhere in existence a unity church or center that is not grounded in prayer and refuses to do so, it needs to stop calling itself unity. Because it's not. Unity is grounded in prayer, and from the very beginning, it started as the Society for Silent Help, and then Silent Unity. We are based in prayer, and that was the second part of the homework. Did some of you call Silent Unity this last week? Thank you for doing that. I should have yesterday while I was moving. I think I should still call them, you know. Not that it's a should thing, but it's an uplifting experience, and I hope it was uplifting for you. And as a reminder, you can call Silent Unity anytime, day or night, any day, any holiday, by calling 1-800-NOW-PRAY. And you can get a hold of somebody. Sometimes they'll have you on hold and have some affirmations and music. And that can be very, very healing, as I have experienced. Last week, we did not get to the 12 powers. Do we have the 12 powers? Here they are. Now, you may not be able to read that. Who can read that? Okay, 5 or 6. Oh, great, we have them. Thank you, Diana. Have you ever seen anyone like Diana? I know there's something about Diana. Okay, so the first power, and you know, not all churches do them in the exact same order. And you know, it wasn't locked in. The Fillmores worked on this system of the 12 powers for quite a while. And the colors and the months, those kind of came in afterwards. But so you'll see sometimes a slight variance, and I'll explain my own particular variance in just a moment. But it's of interest to me that at the same time that Charles Fillmore was developing the 12 powers in Kansas City, across the world, in South India, Sri Aurobindo was also working on a system of the 12 powers. And if you go to South India, to Auroville, as I have done, and stay there, they have 12 concentration centers to awaken those 12 innate divine powers within each one of us. Now, they name them just a little bit differently, but it's the same principle, same process. And Olga Lucia and I went up into their concentration center. They use the term concentration, not meditation. And they have this huge concentration center that has the world's largest crystal globe and a helioscope on top of this thing that looks like a 6.5-story high gold-plated golf ball. And this helioscope follows the movement of the sun, brings down a sunbeam to that world's largest globe, and it diffuses light in the entire center. And you meditate in this center, and they have 12 pillars. And I've noticed, like Joseph Campbell noticed, this archetype of 12, it keeps popping up in different cultures. It doesn't have to be Christianity. Now, in Christianity, we have 12 apostles. In Judaism, or in the Hebrew scriptures, you have 12 tribes. But you can find this number that keeps popping up in different cultures. And so there's these 12 powers. Peter represents faith, which you could also say is belief, what it is that we believe. If you want to see what it is you really believe, look at how you live. That tells you what you really believe. If you're constantly worried, then your belief is that something bad is about to happen. That's your belief, and that's what you're putting faith in. So it's up to us. We can change our faith. We can change our belief system. And that's where affirmations and denials come in very handy. A book that I recommend to help one to understand. So, if I was to have written a homework assignment, this would have been the first question. So you can write this down. Here's your homework, okay, for today. So I'll give you the question and the answer. What a deal. Okay. Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady. Cady is C-A-D-Y, right? Anyway, Emily Cady, Lessons in Truth. Okay, so there's the answer. The question is, what is a good basic unity book that teaches us about denials and affirmations? And the answer is Lessons in Truth. So there's the first question. Excellent. You got it right. You're such a smart class. Yeah. Thank you. And so she goes into affirmations and denials. Affirmations are a good way, and denials, of shifting our belief system. So if you've had challenges with your belief system, you can use affirmations and denials as a way to shift that. So when I started SEE classes, it was really a challenge to me to see myself as the Christ. I could say, well, the Christ is in me, kind of like a wiener in the bun. Or I could say, the Christ is, I'm breathing it in and it's surrounding me, kind of like you're in the ocean, but you're not the ocean. But to say, I am Christ, ooh, boy, did that kick up a lot of things from my past. Like, you don't say that. How can you say that? I am Christ. And so when I went into SEE at Unity Village, and they were leading meditation, Paul Hasselbeck had us all chant together, I am Christ. And I realized, I still have some embedded beliefs about that. So for 90 days, I engaged a process where daily I repeated that affirmation over and over to see what it's bringing up for me. And what it brought up for me is this belief that I'm somehow separate from God, that somehow I'm not all that Jesus said I am, that somehow God isn't everywhere fully present, because somehow I have miraculously created this space where there's a little bit less of God. And how arrogant that is of me. Have you ever thought about how arrogant it is to think that all of God's presence is not present as you? It's arrogant to think that you could somehow hold out God's presence if God is all present, right? Ever think of it that way? So it's a way to deal with your belief system. I love teaching the 12 powers. And this is a 5 or 6 week class. You're going to get the speed reading version. Okay, but I love the 12 powers because we're using them all the time. Some people think, I want to cultivate faith in my life. You're already using faith. It's how are you using it? Are you using it in a healthy way or unhealthy way? Okay, secondly, strength. Well, that isn't the order I do it, but thanks for showing this anyway. Typically in February, I celebrate love. Can you guess why? Valentine's. And the color is pink. And I'm a romantic. So I celebrate the power of love in February. But strength. And this is Andrew. There's an apostle that aligns with each one of these 12 powers. So when you're reading the Christian scriptures, and it talks about, Jesus was with let's say James, John, and Peter on the Mount of Transfiguration, then you know, oh, wow, that represents these three powers. That the Christ was calling together these three powers to work together in transformation. So we use metaphysical Bible interpretation. And I brought with me an excellent example of metaphysical Bible interpretation. Charles Fillmore wrote the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. This is a very well done book. I've studied Hebrew, I've studied Greek. He goes into the legitimate historical definitions of the Hebrew and Greek words, and then goes into their context as used in Scripture, and then in a very profound and deep way goes into their metaphysical meanings. So it's a very powerful book. I recommend it. I have used that a lot. All right. So Andrew represents strength, which means the power to stay the course, to persevere. Some people don't think of themselves very strong, but what is meant is someone who keeps going. You can see some of the strongest people there ever were in the hospital that keep going and persevere. So strength is not about necessarily weightlifting, it's about the ability to keep going. Wisdom. So again, okay, because I'm a holiday kind of guy, and I'm part Irish, what color do you see a lot of in March? Green, because of St. Patrick's. So typically, I just mix them all up, okay? So typically that's when I do strength. But March, wisdom. So that divine wisdom, and you notice, this is very well done. Thank you, Diana. And Diana doesn't know my order. That's okay. It's like these are perfect. So location, pit of the stomach. Have you ever had a gut feeling? You know that phrase, gut feeling? That's talking about the power of wisdom. That's each one of these has an energy center that's also located in the body. So, like if your gut's telling you, like sometimes my wife and I have been out somewhere and she says, I have this feeling we shouldn't be here. This isn't safe. Then you need to listen to that, right? It's the power of wisdom. Love, John, called the beloved. And a lot of these apostles, make sense. John, the apostle, talks a lot about love, and he's called the beloved. And at the Last Supper, he was sitting next to Jesus and leaned his head over on Jesus. So they were very, very close. So a lot of these make sense. Some of them you wonder, like Philip, how's that expressive of power, or the term I prefer is mastery. And that's what is meant by it, mastery or dominion. The ability to create according to our intention. The word Philip means lover of horses. Okay, so think of being able to channel and harness power. Harness that strength, that power within you, that ability to ride where you're wanting to ride. So some of these make sense. Some of them you have to stretch it a little bit. And again, it gives the location of each power. June is imagination. I love this one. Okay, someday when I teach the 12 powers, or whoever of us does, I'll use Paul Hasselbeck's book, Power Up. And Power Up talks about how we use these powers on different levels. So, imagination, when I was a kid, I imagined that there was something underneath my bed ready to grab me. I was using the power of imagination. I use my power of imagination all the time. It can open us up to great visions or terrifying nightmares. It's up to us how we use it. And notice it's between the eyes, okay? So it's like the third eye. It's the spiritual vision. Okay. Thomas, this one I think makes sense because it's understanding. Thomas is the one who doubted the resurrection. He was questioning. He wanted to understand. Matthew, that's our power of this month. Will, I grew up with a CPA and my dad, and he was a very prominent financial advisor and counselor in Kansas, was the CPA for the governor of Kansas. And so, I think of Matthew, who was a tax collector, and that helps me to remember will, but I usually think of willfulness. But that's not necessarily what it means. It means the power to choose, to decide, to command. And it can be used in healthy ways or unhealthy ways. Willfulness is one expression of it, or making healthy choices to reveal our Christ nature is another way to use it. Olive green, order. This is the one I usually forget because sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge for me. Order, putting things. Now I am good at doing sequential things, but sometimes, we use order in different ways. And I love this affirmation. Let's say this affirmation together. My life is balanced and in order, and all is well. Let's do that one more time as I'm visualizing the inside of my apartment. My life is balanced and in order, and all is well. Or sometimes I say, all is swell, Okay, orange, zeal, one of my favorites. So that's the ability. Okay, strength is the ability to persevere. Zeal is the power to get the rocket off the launching pad. Takes a lot of thrust to get that initial lift, okay? So zeal is what helps us to start. November, elimination, also called renunciation or release, releasing those things which no longer serve us. And then life, December. I remember my first Christmas at Unity, and they had the candlelight service, and they wanted me to be representative of one of the disciples. I didn't know which one I was going to be. They gave me the candle. It had an affirmation and the name of the disciple. I was dealing with a lot of resentments, a lot of need to forgive people. My life was in huge transition. I felt like I had let myself down. I felt like others had let me down. I looked at what disciple was I to portray, and it was Judas. And I thought, wow, even Judas is celebrated in unity. I know I've found home. Because unity sees the divine in each and every person. That's our second big principle. So, Judas represents the power of life. And again, this power can be used in healthy ways or unhealthy ways. The power of life fuels all the other powers and can help us to bring forth the Christ or to crucify the Christ. It's up to us how we use this power. So, here's the second question on your homework. Name 2 of the 12 powers. You can write those down. Name 2 of the 12 powers. That's pretty easy, right? You got it? Can you remember at least a couple of them? Oh, everyone has a card for questions. If you desire, we can ask for questions to be picked up. Oh, wow, cool. And any questions online? Okay, all right. So, any questions about the 12 powers that anyone's written down? Can we get a list of them? Because it went so fast. Yes, it is online. And is there a way we can get it to them, or just have folks check it out online? What should we do? I'm looking to our media person here.
Well, we can have that depiction with all of the 12 up there on our 12 Powers page. So we do have a 12 Powers page on our website. Right now it's just the current power, but I can also put that graph up there that shows this one right here. Yeah, that shows that as well, so you get all 12.
Good. Thank you. I knew you could solve this.
If somebody needs it printed out, we should be able to print something out to you guys.
And if you need it printed out, like if you aren't online or whatever, we can print that out for you. Okay. Any other questions about the 12 powers? Okay. All right. Here is, where are we now? Yeah, here we are. Here's our org chart. And who is at the top of our org chart? God. So that's the third question. Who is at the top of the Unity Church of Hawaii organization chart? And the answer is God. So God is what we are about. We're only here for God. Let's say that together. We're only here for God. One more time with feeling. Let me feel it. We're only here for God. That's the only reason we're here. I mean, otherwise, let's go to the beach. But we're only here for God. Okay? And then you notice right under the congregation, right under God, not under God. There's no division, right? But in the org chart, the way it follows, the congregation. Okay? And you notice Unity Worldwide Ministries, Articles of Incorporation, they go in there. So, the congregation, this is to be a community-centric church and a mission-centric church. What we do needs to be centered around our mission, not private agendas, but our mission, and needs to be centered around our community. Right? Oh, good. Right. Okay. And then the Board of Trustees. And we have a few of those. Would you please stand, Board of Trustees? Let's give them a hand for our Board of Trustees. Woo, woo, woo. I expected people to get up on their feet and just cheer, These guys do an awesome job. They do a lot. Ralph Whitaker is our president of the board. Kathy Whitmire is our treasurer. Debbie Catania is our secretary. Marcia Bethards is our vice president. Aren't you? No, that's Thomas. Congratulations. Woo! Don't tell Thomas. And there's, 9 of us? 9 Board of Trustees? Oh, we missed Richard. Richard back here. And anyone else here from the board? Okay. So, our board is open and willing to listen to your concerns because this is a congregation-led community. And so the board, according to this chart, the board represents you. Right? Sometimes I've been somewhere where they've said, wow, the congregation keeps talking about this and this and this. Don't they know they elected us and we're the ones to decide? And it's like, well, the board is really there to represent the congregation. And so I want you to know who the board members are, to know that they are available. I say they. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees as well by virtue of being the senior minister here. So it's a wonderful board, and we have open board meetings. There are churches that do not want congregants to attend the board meetings. Trust me on this. But here, you can come to the board meetings. You can see what we do. Okay. And then we have some committees. In Unity Worldwide Ministries, they use the term ministry teams because they see all committees as being a ministry. Finance, nomination, investment, facilities, bylaws isn't up there. That's another one. There's several different committees. And you may not be able to see all of this. Well, before any of the Board of Trustees leaves, now, is there a question that anyone has written down about the Board of Trustees or about the governance of this church or any of that? Okay, nothing? Yeah, we're good. Okay, do you have a question written down, Linda? We can hand it up here, or it's so good to see you. And if you don't, we'll get right to that. So what we have here, and this is a little hard to read. Oh, I have this laser pointy thing. Okay. All right, right here is Steward of Church Administration. That's Lisa Ensley. Lisa works in the office. She does an excellent job. So, grounds and facilities, custodial care, John Ahuna works with her. Dillard and Susan, who do such a great job. Have you had breakfast over here? Yeah. I don't know if you all know how fortunate you are. Most places you get cookies. All right. Media director, Sean Sweet, does an excellent job. Todd and Greg back on our sound. These indicate that they receive some pay, right? That's what that indicates. And when it's in yellow, it's a volunteer position. And that would be that special lady over there, Diana Thomas, who does our slides and keeps up with the minister, you know, who's bouncing all over the place. And she has a wonderful power of order. If you want to see the power of order in work, Diana does a great job. I don't think you like a lot of attention, do you? You fake it? No, I think you got the power of order down. Yeah. And then over here, the Steward of Church Operations, which is Judy Sweet. Would you stand, Judy? Oh, and Lisa's here. She's back on the camera. That's why I didn't see her. Yay. So they do all kinds of things. They're doing multiple kinds of jobs all the time. I'm still trying to keep track of all the different things you guys do. I mean, it's like, what do they do, you know? When I see the monthly report, there will be about 25 different things listed that they did that month. I'm like, wow. So you all do an amazing job. Let's give them another hand. Thank you. And so with Judy, we have the office reception, which are,
It doesn't mean that it's more effective. It just is,
right,
yeah.
because most of those are volunteers. Yeah, I was trying to understand the color coding because it says volunteer here. But yeah, a lot of these, you know, grounds and facilities, we have volunteers. By the way, next Sunday, okay, you have a sneak peek. Next Sunday, I'm going to be talking about healing through service. We have amazing volunteers here. We have people who come on Saturday mornings to clean the grounds. We have volunteers who put out stuff and pick up the stuff for the Wednesday night service. We have people who work at the front office, like Lynn and Joy, and do we have Kevin? And yeah, Kevin's here on Tuesdays because we have Taco Tuesday. We have these awesome volunteers, and the board are volunteers. They put in a lot of hours and a lot of work, right? And they don't get paid for it, except in love and gratitude.
Right,
And hugs. So we appreciate all of you board members. Thank you for your service and all you do. Ushers. So again, that's not a paid position. These are volunteers. Celebrations, weddings. That comes under Judy. So if there's an event, a workshop, then Judy is our head events coordinator. UI Productions, that's our Japanese weddings. That goes through Judy. Ongoing groups, special events. So Judy and I work closely together about arranging workshops, events. And then over here are some of the other groups, like Deja Vu, our, store over here, our boutique store. A Course in Miracles, which happens here. Unity Counseling Center, an excellent resource, and Unity Wellness, which probably as soon as I can, I will go there after all the moving. And then we have down here marketing, online support. That would be that lady right there, Johanna Kelly. Let's give her a hand. And Johanna helps with the Ho'opono and Keiki Chapel. On Thursday mornings at 9 o'clock is one of my favorite events of the week. We have Keiki Chapel. And so we do skits, we do stories, we sing with the Keiki from the Unity School, because we have a large, prosperous Unity School of about 98 students. And they do amazing work with these kids, and they're amazingly bright. I was doing a story with them not too long ago. I did it in 2 parts, so there was a week between the 2 parts. And I wondered, these are like kids that are 2, 3, or 4 years old. And so I wondered, a week later, are they going to remember any of this story? So I asked, how many of you can tell me any of the characters in this story? And I would have been just pleased as could be if 1 or 2 of them could have come up with one name. But they all shouted in unison, like Stripe and Yellow. I'm like, wow, okay. So I'm going through slides, and there's these are 2 caterpillars. And one of them crawls up onto the limb and builds this sac up on the limb to go through a transformation process. And I was thinking I'd be doing good if someone could say cocoon. And that's what I was going for. So I asked the kids, can anyone tell me what this little sac is that, they've spun up on the limb? And they all shout in unison, chrysalis! I was like, who am I dealing with? They're amazing kids. And so Catherine Burton has joined us to help with that. Judy and Lisa, Johanna, myself. We have a great time. Latrice has helped us a lot of times. We have a wonderful time with this. I get so much out of it, and I just love those kids. Over here, we have Reverend Levitt Thomas, who does a lot of pastoral care. A lot of times leads the Wednesday night prayer and meditation healing service. If you've never come to that, I recommend it. 7 o'clock on Wednesdays right here. It's a great time. Is it hard? It's hard to see, right? So is this available online, this org chart? Can we get it online? So sometime? Okay. And so I highly recommend that 7 o'clock service. It's a quiet, still, healing sort of service. Just what I need on Wednesday night, you know? So I sit here. I don't have to do anything but soak in the vibes and pray. And Reverend Levitt or Johanna leads that, and it's a phenomenal time of prayer together. Unity Cares, I'm not as familiar with. So, can someone tell me real briefly about Unity Cares? Anybody? We need a microphone. You got a mic? You have a box of them, but Judy is running on her way to give you a microphone. Tell us real briefly, Reverend Levitt. Oh, there's Reverend Levitt. Let's give him a hand.
Unity Cares is a support group for caregivers past, present, and future.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That sounds awesome.
It is awesome.
Outstanding.
That's my word.
Okay. I borrowed it. Okay. Volunteer coordinator. Jade, Guess, and Francine, are either of you here? I saw them running around. Yeah. So there's a lot of volunteer opportunities. We have Ho'opono, which is our ministry with the homeless. That meets at, well, actually a little bit before 5, but goes from like about 5 to 5:30 Monday evenings at this little park just down the street. And I try to get there every week because, again, that's such a beautiful time to come together. And it's not a one-up thing where we're ministering downwards. We're all on the same level, all there as the presence of God together and experiencing that together. Johanna typically leads in the daily word and a prayer. They write down some sacred writings or their interpretation of it. So we're teaching spiritual literacy. For those who are not literate, we're helping them to learn how to write and read. And then they receive a meal, which is cooked here in our kitchen Monday afternoons by volunteers. The volunteers are Cindy, Howard, and Francine. Wonderful people. And there's a prison ministry that Tony Barron and Mari head up. I'm going to join them for that August 19th. Right? Are you impressed? Huh? I'm using the power of order. I do have it. Okay. Unity All Believers Interfaith Ministry. Joyce is here. You want to wave, Joyce? Yay! Let us get you a microphone.
Reverend Tim is going to share some of his many and vast experience in various faiths. It's called Interfaith, of course. And I find the title of his upcoming talk amazing.
Yeah.
It says A and then M-A-Z-E.
Amaze in grace. Yes.
So please join us 6:30 here in the chapel.
Great. Thank you, Joyce. And that'll be fun. I'll be talking about various faith perspectives, not from just the standpoint of studying them, but being immersed in them and belonging to various traditions. Will it be available online? But it will be on Alelo. I don't know when they show it on Alelo.
I'm not sure either.
But we do record that for Alelo television. So it should be a fun time together. And Joanne Adams has information on that because Joanne Adams helps with coordinating the recording of that for Alelo television.
I film it that night. At the end of whatever month it's in is when it's due. And then it shows 4 to 6 times the following month. But what's even more exciting is it's also all archived. So you can go into their video on demand and go back and see any of the past
good.
meetings for, I think, about 2 years.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Joanne, for your help with that. Awesome. Okay, where are we at? Ohana Moving Night, that's coming up this Friday night at, is it 7? 7 o'clock. There's popcorn, and this coming Friday night, and it's fun. It's free. You know, it's a good time. And going in style, and so it's about these 3 folks that decide they want to go in style. They're like retired, and they have things they've wanted to do, and they let it loose. Maybe that's why it's PG-13. Anyway, so that's this coming Friday night. Gospel choir, we don't have right now. I know there's a number of people who are interested in having a choir or a gospel choir. Stay tuned, okay? Youth education and ministry, you saw our Keiki come in this morning. And a lot of these are volunteer opportunities. So one of the best ways you can get to know people, grow spiritually, and get involved is by volunteering. It's one of the best ways. I will give a disclaimer. Volunteering is the reason I ended up here. Let me explain. When I came to a Unity church, I wanted to be an incognito minister, not get involved, not take on jobs, stay hidden, you know, sunglasses, hat down. But something inside of me was calling me to be more than that. I got involved in prayer ministry as a prayer chaplain at that church. I got involved leading a meditation class and group. There was I led that group meditation. Let me count the years. 11 years at that church. Then the minister started asking me, would you sometimes come up and do a meditation on the platform? Be careful. And then, would you speak once in a while? And, it was volunteering. I could have said no at any point. And if there was something I truly didn't feel like it was mine to do, then I would, politely say, not at this time. Not at this time. And sometimes they'd try to push me into it. No, thank you, but not at this time. But I continued to say yes to Spirit, which led me, because I had been a pastor before, said, I've done it, don't want to do it anymore, not going to do it. And so all of that volunteering led me into a bigger expansion of what God was calling me to do. And I ended up being the pastor of that Unity church where I had started volunteering and then ended up here. Now, I don't want to scare you about volunteering, but I am saying that it does lead to spiritual growth. It does lead to making connections with people, and it does lead to becoming more intimately involved with what goes on in this loving Ohana and finding out firsthand what's happening and what's going on. Marcia, Marcia wants to say something here.
I've had a lot of spiritual growing. When I first came here, all I wanted to do was shake hands. And somebody came up to me and said, come on, we hug here. And so I became an usher. And I've been an usher, I think 5 or 6 years. And I love it. I have people coming up hugging me. And I hug them too. But I feel like I've grown. I'm no longer a handshaker, like, how you doing?
Right.
It's like, give me a hug.
Thank you. Volunteering is a great way to open up your spirit. It really is. The church I came from, we were having a big volunteer appreciation breakfast and a big celebration together. And we counted up the number of, I'm not talking about someone who just volunteered once, but someone who repeatedly had volunteered. And we counted up the number of volunteers and measured that to our average Sunday attendance. And would you believe that our volunteer percentage, based on the average attendance, was 72% of that congregation? Yeah. I believe strongly in volunteerism. And here's a great principle. Repeat after me. If it comes to me, I want to do this a little bit different. Let's start it differently. If it comes to you, it's yours to do. Let's say it again. If it comes to you, it's yours to do. If a divine idea comes to you about why doesn't somebody do this or that? Why doesn't somebody do it this way? Why doesn't somebody, maybe you could come and talk to us, and maybe you would be the right person to head that up. I don't want you to say, well, in Wichita they got to the place where they were afraid to say their ideas, because then we'd say, oh, if it comes to you, it's yours to do. But I don't want you to be afraid. But if that comes up for you, who is the somebody? Who is the somebody that you're waiting for to do that? It could be you. So I really want to support that idea of volunteering. Whoops, went the wrong way. So this whole area here is about volunteering, which could include teaching our youth. Right now, we have grade school kids who go to Sunday school class. What I envision is a middle school, could be called Uniteens. High school, usually called YOU, Youth of Unity. We could have a ministry to millennials. Sometimes that's called NGU, Next Generation Unity. I envision all of those groups growing. And we have someone who's attended here, I think 4 Sundays in a row. Their first Sunday was like 4 weeks ago. They're really into the services. They came up to me after the service and they said to me, I want to volunteer here because I know that's how I can get more involved, that's how I can grow spiritually, and that's how I can get to know people. I'm like, let me find Jade or Francine for you real fast. I don't want to miss out on those opportunities. We want to plug you in whatever ways you can to be a part of this Ohana. What have I skipped? Music director Alethea does a great job. The band and Zamar. Yeah, they do a fantastic job. Alethea, that is a paid position. The band does get paid something, but let me tell you, for highly trained professional musicians who can get the music that morning and they can put it together, we have the top musicians on the island at a pretty low price. Yeah. And Zamar is volunteer, Ralph, Don, Johanna. We've also had a couple of younger folks, Emily and Max, that have been with us. Yeah, it's a joy to see them, to see all of them. Thank you for your service. All right. Over here, preschool. Some people think that the preschool is a separate entity, but actually the preschool is a ministry of this church. The director of the preschool is hired by the minister under the auspices of this church. And so we are all one body, although they have a separate system. They have their own staff. They have their own teachers. So what they do is a very, very important ministry. And Sergio does an excellent job. If you've never met Sergio, he does a fantastic job over there. Jeannie is the office manager over there. There's a number of staff and teachers. This is a phenomenal church. And like I said this morning, I've never seen a church so well poised for growth. And so that's what I'm envisioning. And I'm so grateful for all the ways in which all of you contribute. Now, Linda, we didn't get to your question. So can we run? Oh, is it up here?
It's one of the ones here.
Okay. Oh, we have a couple of questions.
Didn't say
Amy, pardon me. Where are we? Where is it? Right here. Sorry. Yeah, steward of finance. Pardon me. Amy does a fantastic job. Amy is doing bookkeeping both for us and for the school. So she's dividing her efforts, and it's part-time because she works for 2 other churches also. And Paula was working here. Paula has now accepted a position elsewhere, but is still a part of our church and attends. But Amy is doing a fantastic job and has a heart of service. She really feels called to be here. I've talked with her about this. She feels called to help and assist here, and she stepped in a time of need. And I know she and Kathy have been working closely together to get our finances in order and reconciled so that our financial situation is clear and understandable. And thank you for all that work. But thank you for bringing that up. I just missed it. Thank you. See, order. Judy is another one who has that great power of order. And so if any of you, some of you have asked for appointments, and it's, I ask people if they would please call the front office and go through Judy. The reason, a very important reason for that is that Judy is a great keeper of my schedule. I don't always know what my schedule's like, and I sometimes can double or triple book myself. I've done that, and I've pulled it off. Have you ever seen Mrs. Doubtfire, where he's running back and forth? Yeah, I can do that, but it's better to have someone else keep my schedule. Let's see. Did I miss anyone else here? Thank you. Where are you on here? Oh, right here, the box. Okay, licensed Unity ministers, licensed Unity teachers. In Unity, licensed Unity ministers are those who've been licensed but not yet ordained. And so they may be in the process. Or they could renew every 2 years. That's how it works. But typically that's moving towards ordination. Licensed Unity teachers: Johanna Kelly, Catherine Burton, Sandra, who was here last week for class, couldn't be here today. Any other licensed Unity teachers here? Levitt has now become ordained. So there's a number of people who can help teach classes. So it's not all up to me, you know? That's nice. So we can have a number of classes going, and people can have SEE classes. SEE classes are like spiritual enrichment and education. It's to help us to grow spiritually, and it's unity core classes to help us to really know and apply, not just head knowledge, but really apply from our heart the principles and apply them to our lives. And so there will be classes. Catherine is going to teach a class that starts the first Saturday in November. And it's going to go for 5 weeks or 6? 6 weeks. And it's the teachings of Jesus. So for 6 weeks, Catherine will be teaching that. Yeah, let's give her a hand. Saturdays at what time? 1 until 3. Okay. Up in 201? All right. So 201, if you're unfamiliar with the campus, there's some stairs over here. It's the first one right at the top, okay? I remember when I took a tour here, I was completely confused about where anything was. I thought, well, when I come back, that's how I was thinking. When I come back, I'll learn my way around. Okay, so licensed Unity teachers go through a lot of training, a lot of classes. They go through all kinds of processes to become licensed Unity teachers. So they're highly qualified to teach and instruct classes. Okay, anything else I missed? Thank you for catching all these. Anything else? Okay. Oh, and you notice bylaws up here? We currently have a committee that's going over the bylaws, proposing some changes to our bylaws, updating them. If any of you are interested, just keep watching on the, when's the next bylaws meeting? Do you? This Thursday? I'm glad I asked. What time? 6:30. 6:30. Okay, this Thursday night, and we meet up in room 201. Okay. Agreeing and disagreeing in love. Let me go to something else first. The membership covenant. Because the membership covenant refers back to agreeing and disagreeing in love. Oh, wait, we have questions. See, I get so excited. Wait a minute. Is it true regarding the bylaws that the personnel are directed by the minister and the board directs the rest of the church? Someone might, from my reading and studying of the bylaws, the senior minister is like the chief executive officer of the church. And so the senior minister, the way the bylaws are set up, is the one who oversees each one of the employees. That does not prevent the senior minister or a CEO from delegating someone to work especially with somebody. But, yes, the way our bylaws are set up, the senior minister is the CEO and directs the personnel. The board directs the rest of the church. That part would involve some more discussion by what do we mean by directs rest of the church. When you look at the bylaws 4.02, it outlines the duties of the minister. And the minister oversees the services, the classes, the workshops, anything related to the ministry of the church. There are several duties that are listed there, and I meant to bring a copy of the bylaws with me, and I didn't. If you want, I mean, you don't have to, but, and thank you, Judy. And there's about, I don't know, maybe 17 or 21 duties listed for the Board of Trustees. A lot of those things are about the finances of the church, the business of the church, and, you know, Judy's going to get a copy of those bylaws. Like I said, I meant to bring it, but I got into grief discussions with people following the service. Touched a lot of people, and so I was actually doing some grief work and forgot to bring down those bylaws. But hopefully that's an overview, and we can get more specifics in just a moment. What are the commitments of, this from another person, what are the commitments of membership? Do we get a copy of the covenant? I'll start with the last one first. Yes, you will get a copy of the covenant, and for those interested in membership, we will ask of you to sign that, and those who are already members, currently in our bylaws, it says that those covenants need to be signed again, renewed each year by September 30th, is it? Is that right? September, that's what it says currently. We're in the bylaws committee, we're looking at different things, but currently that's what it says. Thank you. Is this the bylaws?
Yes.
And what are the commitments of membership? The commitment of membership, as I see it, is to be a member, to be a part of this ohana, which I think the covenant describes well. I've looked over the covenant, and I think it's a good description of what I consider a member to be. That is, some of the things that I would see as being involved in being a member. And we'll get to that in just a minute. Thank you, Lynn. Did I answer that?
Yes.
Okay. Since the God essence called the Christ was fully expressed in Jesus, why wasn't Mary who gave birth to him? Secondly, how do you pray? So the first question, since the God essence called the Christ was fully expressed in Jesus, why wasn't Mary who gave birth to him also called the Christ? Is that what I'm hearing in the question? Now, I see Mary as the Christ, okay? She was the divine feminine. Some of you may not know, for several years I was assistant to a Roman Catholic priest, and so I assisted with communion, assisted with the Mass, assisted with the prayers. There's a lot to my story. Anyway, and part of what I liked was this veneration for Mary, which I see as the archetype of the divine feminine. You can see that in Hinduism, you can see it in Buddhism. It keeps popping up, this divine feminine. So I personally don't believe that spirituality is gender-based. How do you pray? Lots of ways. I pray by meditating every morning, every evening. I open myself up to the presence. Many times I begin by reading the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sometimes I read the Bible, the Tao Te Ching. I mean, I've studied the Bible a lot. I don't mean like, but, you know, currently I'm just reading a lot of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. And praying for me is being receptive and open and allowing what is inside of me to connect in the divine presence. Now, there have been some times where I have prayed by screaming, hollering, and using lots of colorful language. You can use that way too. There's all sorts of ways because there's no prayer police here. You can pray in whatever way works for you. I've used chanting and still use chanting. I have used mantras. I have used singing. I have used taking a walk. I go to the beach and I'll just float on top of the water on my back. I'll just float on the water and I'll gaze into the sky. Sometimes the moon is visible. And for me, it's a time of prayer and connection. The ways that I pray shift and change with circumstances and at various times. But what I've learned by experience is that there's an infinite number of ways to pray and do whatever helps you to connect with that one presence, that one power that is living itself as you. Meditation has been a lifesaver for me. As a kid growing up, I was in trouble a lot, and I was hard to control. Meditation helped me to learn to get focused and centered. It's been a lifesaver for me. So I highly recommend it. And again, recommend the Wednesday night service. It's a great way to learn about prayer and meditation. I'm sorry? There's some questions on the back. Oh. Oh, sorry, Len. Two-part question. Oh, this is one small one. Okay. How can you explain where is God when you see so many bad things? That can be a challenge, right? But part of our spiritual discipline is learning to recognize the divine regardless of the circumstances, regardless of how things look on the outside. It's not always easy, right? There are times where I wonder, really, God? I mean, what's this about? It's a challenge, you know? As a kid, I experienced abuse. How do you explain that? And yet, there was a presence inside of me that helped me to keep going and later on flourished. And so what I came to understand is, regardless of the circumstances, there is a greater power in me that can never be destroyed or diminished. Right. And then I could begin to recognize God in that person. I could see they were doing the best they knew how at the time. I can really see that. Now that's taken some work. You can't do that flippantly. That's taken some work. But I can see God in them. We have the power of will, and we can make choices to do some destructive, hurtful things. But the presence of God is always there. Now that doesn't fully answer it. But that's an excellent question. Thank you. Did I miss any? Okay, those are great questions. Wow. All right, let's look at our covenant. Oh, where'd I go? Okay, thank you. Let's go to our covenant. Membership covenant. That's okay. Can everyone... we will hand these out, but can you all see the screen? Okay, let's go ahead and hand these out. Yeah, if we could hand these out. Oh, great. We have helpers. Helpers are coming. Any questions on Facebook? Hi, Facebook. All right. And YouTube? Well, this is actually going on to our website. Yeah. Okay. Which, I should mention, there's a little disclaimer in our bulletin, in case you haven't noticed. Smile, you may be taped and or live streamed. Our services are available. So, basically, if you don't wish to be on camera, there are spots you can sit, to kind of be out of the way. Like Wally's probably out of the way, right? So if he's incognito on the lamb, he won't show up. on live streaming. He's never incognito. Love you, Wally. Okay. So let me look real quick at these bylaws just to address. Okay. So here's the duties of the senior minister. Be responsible for the complete functioning of this ministry, including the hiring and termination of all employees. Serve as a voting minister on the board of trustees. Create ministry teams. Now again, I believe that means committees, because that's Unity Worldwide Ministries language. Appoint the members of such ministry teams. Serve as ex officio member of such teams. Be responsible for seeking UWM, that's Unity Worldwide Ministries, assistance if there's some dispute. And up above all this, it says the senior minister will be responsible for the scheduling, content of services, classes, and all other activities that further the purpose of this ministry. As administrative director, so it calls the senior minister senior or administrative director. Now, the board of trustees, how many are there? 17. Okay, I was right the first time. There's a whole bunch of them. And the board and I work closely together. I believe, and we believe, in a very collaborative approach. I don't believe typically in, no. When it comes to Sunday service, I carry a little more leverage, but typically I want to work collaboratively. It just works better because I believe in a community-centric model. So to me, it's about all of us working together, but the board has a tremendous list of things that they oversee in regards to the property, the finances, the operation of this church. So, yeah. All right, covenant. Do you all have a copy now? Why don't we say these together? I understand and am aligned with the basic teachings of unity. I make my spiritual development and relationship with God a priority in my life. I do my part to support the church's mission of teaching, motivating, empowering, and supporting people in their growth and transformation through the application of spiritual principles. I join my fellow members and congregants in participating in the creation of a warm and accepting atmosphere where love is felt and lives are changed. I extend myself with loving warmth to newcomers to my church home and to those people attending whom I do not know. I include the church in my daily prayer life. I include the church in my financial affairs, giving joyfully and lovingly. I serve this ministry in ways I am able, thereby strengthening the whole family while learning the value of selfless service to others. I speak with constructive purpose about the church and my fellow congregants. If I experience personal upset with the church or a congregant, I will seek guidance from Spirit, then speak with and resolve any upset with the person or persons involved in accordance with the principles of agreeing and disagreeing in love. I recognize that my presence and participation at church services and activities is a contribution and a gift that enhances the experience for all. Together with my fellow members and congregants, I am co-creating with God the ongoing dynamic life of Unity Church of Hawaii. I recognize that together we help to keep its doors open and expand its programs and services, thereby blessing and serving thousands of others like myself. Through membership in unity, I honor the God in me and the God at work through Unity Church of Hawaii. So let me look at just a few of these things. Am I in the way if I stand here? Okay, so, the basic teachings of unity. Now, none of us go around, at least I don't, like, hey, do you believe in the 5 principles? Will you sign off on the 5 principles? But, that's what we're about. And our hope is that you have some understanding about that and feel some alignment with what we teach here. Maybe it's an assumption on my part that most people that would want to join feel some alignment with what we teach. Now, you might just feel like it's a cool place to hang out with wonderful people. And that's true, with an awesome breakfast. But, we're hoping as a spiritual community that you feel some alignment with the basic teachings of unity. And as Lowell Fillmore says, Lowell Fillmore said this in 1939, that if there are areas where you don't understand, you have questions or doubts, we just ask that you hold those things kind of in reserve and continue to pray and seek and be open to Spirit to see if the Spirit of truth opens you to those truths. I make this a priority, my relationship with God. We consider this to be a spiritual community, so we would hope that members would want to put their spiritual development first and foremost. To support the church in any way we can, basically. So volunteering, encouraging others, supporting others, using the gifts that we have to help support this loving ohana. Being a warm, loving atmosphere where people feel welcome and extending ourselves to newcomers. That is so important. So these new people who are coming, they're loving this place. They're eating it up. And I hope you notice newcomers and extend love and welcome and friendship to them. Let's see, I want to keep confidentiality. So maybe I won't, let's see. Let me tell this story in a way that covers someone's identity. I know of somebody who has a difficult time connecting with people, but they want to know how to connect with people and genuinely want people to feel welcome. So they intentionally volunteered for a position here that would force them to interact with others and help them to feel welcome. Isn't that cool? And I'm thinking, yeah, that's the idea. Volunteer and grow and expand into what you're wanting to create spiritually in your life. Please pray for us every day. I pray for you all every day. I pray for the church. I pray for the board. And I carry that vision and I carry it in my heart at all times. And please pray for us. Pray for the minister. Pray for the board. Pray for our staff. Please pray for all of us. Include us in your financial affairs, giving joyfully and lovingly. As I mentioned this morning, giving is a very valuable way to open ourselves up to prosperity, to open up our hearts in gratitude, to eliminate the idea of limit and lack, Charles Fillmore, in his book Prosperity, said that there's no better way than the love offering to eliminate the idea of lack. And so we encourage that. And we encourage tithing. Tithing is 10% of your income. So typically tithing means 10% of your income. None of us are going to go around and check your bank statement and see, are they really giving 10%? Let's get the spotlight out and do an interrogation. We're not going to do that. That's between you and God. But we do encourage you to practice the principle of reciprocity, that as you have received, give, and keep that cycle going, because it's an energy exchange to give if you are receiving spiritually in this community. Also, it's a great way to open up your heart in gratitude. I find that giving helps me to be happier because it opens me up to gratitude. And then if I'm a little bit grumpy and I give, it's hard to be grumpy after I've given. Because it opens up my heart. So we encourage that. Let's look at agreeing and disagreeing in love. Oh, here's a thing for you to fill out. And that way we can have contact information for you, should you desire and choose to become a member. And I would love to have you as a member here.
There's an online question if you want to answer.
Oh, we have an online question. Can we have a microphone for Johanna? Yes. And who is this from?
It's from Mariel on
Muriel,
Facebook.
hi. How you doing?
She wants to know what your take and Unity's take is on heaven.
Heaven.
Yes,
The afterlife.
the afterlife.
There we go. And by the way, Unity All Believers Interfaith Ministry on Labor Day is going to do a special thing at Chaminade University on different faith perspectives on the afterlife. There, I got that plug in. Okay, the afterlife. Well, in Unity, as I was saying to Joanne Adams today, there's a lot of wiggle room. In 2006, there were over 200 licensed Unity teachers, leaders, and ministers that were pulled together at a convention. And they were asked about several topics to give what is Unity's perspective. And so one of the questions was on the afterlife. What is Unity's teaching on the afterlife? Guess what they ended up with? Multiple choice. They had 3 or 4 options listed. Sounds like Unity, right? But the Fillmores, let's see, how much time do I have? Because I love this stuff. The Fillmores very strongly believed in reincarnation. In fact, I have a copy of an old article, I mean, in his early days, where Charles Fillmore wrote an article called, "Is Paul Now Here?" And he's talking about the Paul from the New Testament. And he's talking about the possibility of Paul now being here. And as you read the article, it becomes clear that he's probably referring to himself. So they believe strongly in reincarnation with the eventual end of moving beyond just being entangled in material things and being able, like Jesus, to ascend to the heavens, to ascend to a higher plane of existence. In Unity, we talk about heaven. We also talk about everything being consciousness. I have experienced hell on earth. I've experienced heaven on earth. And I found that there are choices I can make about that. Me personally, yes, I believe in an afterlife. In fact, I know it Now, some people challenge that. How can you know? And that's okay. But I actually know it. How do I know that? Okay. I'll give you a teaser. I'll talk about this in some other lesson. Here's a teaser. I can remember my life before I was in a physical body. I'll just let you chew on that. And I'll talk about it more on August 14th at the Unity All Believers Interfaith Ministry. But, yes, we do believe in the afterlife. We do believe that we continue to evolve and grow. The presence of Spirit is always expanding and leading forth as us. Unity does not believe in a like heaven and hell system of like eternal damnation, because that doesn't make sense to us, because God is love. And, when my son would mess up and do something, yeah, there could be some discipline, but I'm not going to burn him in a lake of fire for eternity. Am I more loving than God? When you look at those passages of Scripture that refer to the lake of fire and so forth, and this is a whole other lesson, but those were not intended to talk about eternal situations. There are different Greek words that are used for hell. One of them is Gehenna. Gehenna was a place right outside the gates of Jerusalem where they would burn the trash and the rubbish. And so it was referred to as a place to eliminate the stuff that no longer serves, the trash. So Charles Fillmore taught that hell is referring to a purification process whereby we're letting go of the stuff we no longer need so we can bring our true Christ presence, our resurrected presence forth. We can get into a whole lot more on that. Mala, you have a question? Then we better get to this, because now I see why we need 3 or 4 sessions. How does karma fit in?
Into it, yeah.
I'd love to answer that. I would love to answer that. Maybe I can address that some if you're available August 14th. Okay. All right. Oh, here's a question. How is Silent Unity's prayer effective when they only use your first name? Well, good question. I mean, there's no distance in God. So we can know the truth even without knowing the name. They use, the first name as a point of contact, but the unity style of prayer, another thing I love teaching, affirmative prayer, is knowing the truth with someone. One doesn't have to know the whole story. One doesn't even have to know the name. But we set up a resonance in this energy field. And as I am knowing the truth within myself, it begins to affect the other person as they resonate with that truth. And I've seen amazing experiences of people experiencing health and wholeness as we know the truth. So in unity prayer, we don't pray the problem. Sometimes people will come to me with a real long story and problem, which is great, and then they're surprised that I don't necessarily mention the story and the problem in my prayer. That's because I'm not praying the problem, I'm praying the truth. I'm praying knowing the truth with them and knowing who and what they really are. So even if they're giving me a false name, I'm still knowing the truth with them. Because Spirit knows. Spirit is ministering on that energy field. Hope that responds somewhat to that. Good. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Let me go to agreeing and disagreeing in love. This is referred to in the covenant. Like if we have a dispute, if there's, does conflict ever happen in church? I don't know. Does it ever happen here? Okay, great. Some places, sometimes there's conflict, you know? And so, this comes from the Lombard Mennonite Peace Center. It's adapted somewhat. They're people that have worked with the unity movement a lot to find ways of peacemaking. And so, accept conflict. You know, you first accept that it's a normal part of life. Conflict seems to come with life a lot of times. You affirm the truth. You endeavor to see the conflict as symptomatic of what's missing. Okay? So, the conflict is, and when I led groups in psychiatry. And so I studied a guy named Yalom. I don't know if any of you have ever, Yalom, Y-A-L-O-M. And he would talk about not scapegoating people, not casting people out of groups, but rather finding ways to integrate and include them. Because even if they were troublemakers, disruptive, they were giving voice to something that needed to be said in the group, and yet there needed to be a redirection so that the whole group could digest it, assimilate it without scapegoating them. It's challenging. You know, working with psychiatric patients, some of these people were extremely angry. Some of them were very angry with God, and the chaplain represents God, you know. So, some of their anger would really come out, and sometimes it'd be a real challenge. But what I found is that if we could listen to what they were saying, integrate it, not scapegoat them, help them to be part of the group, and help the rest of us to have the spiritual and emotional intelligence to listen and encourage them to say what they're saying, hopefully in a way that's not attacking others. That's one thing I wouldn't allow in groups. I wouldn't allow it. You cannot attack others in this group. That's how I feel about a spiritual ohana as well. Voice your opinion. Voice your concern. We need to hear it. But do not attack. Why do you need to attack? But it's important to voice your concern. So as we hear and listen, we can see that there's something we can do with it. We commit to prayer. We look for win-win situations. We go directly to the person with whom we have a disagreement. Now, this can be a challenge. Avoid behind-the-back criticism. Refrain from engaging in parking lot conversations. What that's talking about is like sometimes, you know, and another thing I've studied a lot is family systems theory from Murray Bowen. And anxiety, the way anxiety travels. You know, if something's distressing or disturbing us, we want to get it out. And so we find a friend, someone who will listen, where we can dump this stuff out. I'm upset with so-and-so. Instead of going to talking to so-and-so, we talk to someone else. In family systems theory, you've probably heard this term, that's called triangulation, triangling. Instead of dealing directly with the person, why not try dealing directly with the person? Talking it out, finding a common ground, finding a win-win situation instead of making each other an enemy. So that's what this is proposing. Go in gentleness, patience, humility. Own our part in the conflict instead of blaming others. And acting as if the others are responsible for how we are. You know, I've said this before, and maybe some of you have said it. Have you ever heard someone say, They make me so mad. Well, actually, no one makes you mad. That's your choice. That's your interpretation. Yeah, we get angry, we get upset, but then we need to do the inner work and acknowledge what is coming up for me. What am I feeling? And sometimes, let me make up some ridiculous. Well, no, let me give a real example. In the hospital where I worked for a long time, I decided that if a relationship was important to me, then it was important to me to sit down one-on-one with somebody and tell them my concern and how I felt about what happened. So, I went to the head of nursing at one of the large hospitals, and I came to her, and I said, because it's important to me that we work together, because our relationship with each other is important, I would like the chance to visit with you. I would like the chance to talk. Could we do that? And I asked permission. And as the premise stated, it's because we have a relationship and I want to make that relationship even better if possible. And the chief nurse looked concerned and said, okay. And then we found a time to talk and, okay, what's going on? I said, a couple of hours ago, I know it was very, very busy in the emergency room, but as you pushed me in the back and hurt my back, it really concerned me. And I thought you should know it, that it was painful. And I request of you that you never, ever physically push me again. Her eyes got big. She hadn't even realized. In her hurry, she had done it and hadn't even known she had done it. And she knew that that was a fireable offense. But I didn't want to go that route. I wanted to build a bridge. I wanted to build relationship. Let's talk about it. And so it built an even stronger relationship. And I stood in my truth and I owned what I was feeling. So that's the kind of process this is describing. Did we lose it, Diana? All right. Be willing to negotiate. And this is still on agreeing to disagree, right? Oh, okay. So go in gentleness, patience, humility, then listen carefully, and then what is the next one? Be willing to negotiate. Again, one of the lessons I heard from a young Unity minister was this. He was talking about signs of God's will. Now, coming from a church where they talk so much about what God's will is, and usually it was really about the hierarchy controlling me, but I was interested, what is a sign of God's will? And I never forgot this one. One of the chief signs, he said, of God's will is it's a win-win situation. If you find a win-win situation, then it's a sure sign of God's will. And it's like, that's interesting. So I found myself always looking for win-win situations. Instead of making someone else the bad guy or trying to make someone else lose or lay down like a floor mat and be the loser just to try to avoid conflict, which doesn't solve anything, why not negotiate and find a win-win situation? How can we do this together? Those are the kinds of steps we're asking of our members so that we can create this ohana to be a family that works together, so that we can find workable solutions. It's not about shutting anybody up. That's not conflict resolution. That's suppression. That's repression. You know? But it's about following a pathway where we can effectively communicate with each other, let our needs be known, and look for a resolution and win-win solution. So, be open to seek a mutual solution, be open to peacemaking. The community as a whole is involved in this. You know, be the expression of Christ. That's what we're here to be, is to be that expression of the Christ. So I believe, and we have some other documents. We're probably not going to be able to get to those due to time. High Road, what's it called? High Road. There's some other documents we have that talk about this, but I especially want to highlight this one because it's specifically mentioned in our covenant, that this is a way to be with each other. When I think of membership, I don't just think of someone who shows up once in a great while and votes. I think of somebody who's actually involved and a part, a member, involved, connected with the Sohana, and works together with others to create the best spiritual community that wants to be revealed here. And that's why we're all here. You are here as an answer to prayer. Every single one of you. Every single one of you brings forth a gift. Every single one of you, by your presence, brings forth something that is needed here in this spiritual community. So each and every one of you are honored, loved, and respected. If, in your spiritual discernment, you see this as a place that you would like to become a member, whether you're watching us on Facebook, online, or you're physically present here, then I would ask of you to sign that covenant. And we are looking, I think it's 2 weeks from today, of bringing in the new members, and it'll actually be in one of our worship services. Don't worry. I'm not going to ask you to speak necessarily, but as a way for us to celebrate you and as a way to officially welcome you into this spiritual family. When I initially wrote the mission statement at Unity of Wichita, it started with this line: everything we do here is about love. That is still my mission. And I believe everything we do here is to be about love. I would love for you to be a part of this loving family, this loving Ohana. I welcome you and I invite you to join us as members. Those of you who are still members, or those of you who haven't attended in a while, please come back. We would love to have you here. And we're just about out of time. Any last questions, comments, quickly?
I just wanted to mention, when you come, make sure that you're given a bulletin. This tells about the activities that are going to happen during the week, like the bylaws committee meeting and Ohana movie night. So make sure that you always get a bulletin.
Good.
It has our address on it, phone number, contact names.
Perfect. Thank you, Marcia.
But this says, I'm currently a foreman, I'm currently a new.
Okay.
This doesn't say a new member.
Yeah, this one is for new members, right?
It doesn't say, it doesn't say
Doesn't say that?
that. No.
Oh, this is the renewal form? I see. Okay. Thanks for catching that. So now I'm wondering, can we sign the renewal forms as an initial membership, or do we need to make copies of the initial one? I'm sorry, what? Okay, she's going to bring it in. Judy is so awesome. I like this picture. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. Because I see this representing Ohana. Must have been Easter. The Easter Bunny's there. Yeah. Wait a minute, the Easter Bunny's back there. Leilani. Okay. Yeah, Leilani was the Easter Bunny this last Easter. So this is from Easter Sunday. And this is really about building connection. What I have found in Unity is an amazing amount of love, support, acceptance, an amazing amount of people helping me to bring the very best forth. And that's what every Unity church, including this one, needs to be like, to help support and bring forth the very best in us. Any other questions or comments as we're waiting for Judy?
Is this the only 2 classes? Are there other classes for this?
This is the only 2 classes for the Unity 101 class. Yes. We may expand it because I found, there's a whole lot more material. Oh, I didn't mention this book, The Revealing Word. This is metaphysical terms. This is from Charles Fillmore. So there's certain terms you can look up and find, in a very short format, a great way to look at spiritual principles that Unity believes. Facebook question?
No, it's just a clarification I want to say to our online viewers who may not have a paper copy available to them. When you go under our membership resources, you will, and under the new member page, there will be, after this, probably by tomorrow, there will be the covenant where they can sign as well and everything else. And then if you still need to hand or turn in the homework, you can do that there as well.
Thank you. And thanks for mentioning homework. If you want to receive your homework back, I'd be happy to give it back to you, but I would like to see the homework that you filled out from last week and this week. I mean, I would like to see especially your responses to question number 5 from last week. Yes,
Reverend
Kathy.
Tim, I just wanted to raise a question in line with this issue of the renewal covenant versus the new covenant, because there may be people here in this room or people watching Facebook who actually have been a member of this congregation but have not renewed, maybe didn't renew last September or didn't renew some years in the past but want to renew again. And I'm asking this as a question, hoping that somebody has a good answer to it, and
I bet I do.
What should they do if they were a member but now they didn't renew and now they want to renew again?
I would like for them to renew. If you want to renew, please do. Hey, that's catchy. If you want to renew, please do. And I would love the opportunity to meet with you. If you haven't been here for some time, I would love the chance to connect with you. So, I mean, does that kind of address it, Kathy?
Well, no. Do they have to come to class or something, or can they just renew?
If they're renewing, it means they've already come to classes before. Otherwise, they were never members. So just renew. Yeah, perfect. Okay, now we have the updated. Who else needs them? The new member sheet. I see. Okay. All right up here, Bruce needs one. Judy? Okay. Judy, Bruce needs one. Thank you. Who else? Hold up your hand if you need the new membership covenant. Kevin, it's like an auctioneer. See ya. All right. Anybody else? Anybody else need the covenant? And I'll get to the question. Anybody else need the covenant so you can become a member? Or if you wish to renew. Why not renew now? Do you have to wait till September 30th? You can renew now, right? Okay, question?
Joyce is standing.
Joyce is standing.
Back to the number 5. And my reply to that, and it's what attracted me and my late husband to this particular church. Unity is unique in that unity does not ask that we subscribe to dogma, but teaches us to think and let our lives speak.
I love that. And we do not teach dogma. What we do teach are principles and tools to help people to live and create the life that you want to create. Good. Diana.
I have one question.
You have a question?
It's very loaded. When I first started working here, I came from a church that called the members who came here part of a cult. Now I tried to kind of gloss over it by saying that there's another meaning to the word cult, like having a cult following, which is not a bad meaning in itself. But it didn't help to cover over, hurt feelings. So when members from Unity hear, oh, that church is a cult, what have your responses been?
Like when other people have called people here at Unity belonging to a cult or something?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
That I
Right,
never
right.
did.
yeah, right.
But still, I tried to
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's a good question.
calm feelings.
Usually, I've done it in so many different ways, but usually I want to come to a common definition. What do you mean by the term cult? And because typically a cult refers to a group where there is a domineering leader, where everyone must subscribe to what that one leader says without question. I don't even use the word cult because it's such a confusing term, and typically it's used by people to indicate someone who belongs to a group other than theirs. So, when I was in Church of the Nazarene, they talked about the Catholics being a cult. When I was in the Catholic Church, they talked about someone else being a cult. It's a loaded term, real loaded emotionally. And generally, there's various ways the word can be used. There's an appropriate way to use it, just meaning following a particular teaching. But when people... Okay, here's my response to it. Unity is the uncult. Because we don't have like a dominant leader that tells everyone what to think. In fact, we teach people that the teacher is within. The guru is within. That the wisdom and presence of God is within, and that Jesus said the very same thing. That we are following the life and teachings of Jesus when Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. And they may sometimes say, well, don't you claim some sort of equality with God or something? I'll say, what do you do with that scripture where Jesus quotes from the Psalms and says, does not the Scripture itself tell you you are God's? What do you do with that Scripture? I mean, so I just stand in my own truth. I don't argue with people. Arguing doesn't do any good. It's pointless. But I do stand in my truth, and I state what my experience is and what my beliefs are, and if they're helpful to someone else, great. I have the opportunity to have grown up in fundamentalism, have lots of friends who are, from this very fundamentalistic aspect of Christianity, including ministers. So I'm friends with ministers who, are really, really strong in what they teach and can really pounce on those who teach something else. And yet we have had a very good working relationship because of our honesty with each other. And so, when I'd see him in the hospital, they'd say, how you doing, brother? God's still good to you? Yeah. But it's like we had to get through that initial thing because sometimes people wondered, what do you mean we're the Christ? So, yeah.
I'll just add that when I spoke to the leader of that church and told him that I was marrying Levitt, who was a member of this church, he said, "Oh, Unity, they're a good church. They do good things."
Yeah.
So it's not.
It's because you're married to Reverend Levitt, I'm sure. Yeah.
But just some members who have that.
Thank you. Thank you, Diana. Yeah, once in a while that's kind of come up, and there's some good Unity materials on that. And really, Unity, its purpose is to emulate the life and teachings of Jesus. Yeah. And what I've noticed throughout the ages, any group that was a little bit outside the box, people would throw these labels at them. And those groups would typically revolutionize people's faith and revolutionize Christianity. They would become the norm, and then another group would start up. It's an ongoing evolution and process. Yeah. One time, I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Bishop Shelby Spong. And he is an Episcopal bishop. He teaches a lot about how Scripture has been misused and the future he sees for Christianity. And someone asked him, is there any kind of church at all that you would recommend that is somewhat like the Christianity you envision for the future? And he said, well, actually there is. There's a group called Unity that I would recommend, and they come the closest to what I believe they're the Christianity of the future. So, yeah. Mala? Her mic isn't on.
Is it on? Yeah. It's not a question, but I just want to make a comment on behalf of Len and I. And Len can speak for himself, but we have searched and searched for a place to be. And I just want to thank you and everybody else for accepting us here. We feel very blessed to be here. I'm very grateful for that.
Wow, thank you,
I just
Mala.
want you to know that because we have come here before but didn't become a member, but the time was right this year.
Good.
And I'm glad you're here and everybody else, and we feel really at home here, and I just want to say we'll do our part to contribute.
Thank you.
And so
it's good to have you here. Thank you. And I saw, Linda has a hand up. Anyone else? And then we probably better wrap up.
I just have one question. I'm sort of surprised because I thought we were, in our literature always before on the bulletin and stuff, it always had this blurb in the beginning on the front page. It said that we're a non-denominational church. And so I didn't think that we were really a Christian church or anything. I thought we were a non-denominational church where everybody was welcome.
Okay, let me address that. Everyone is welcome here. And when you look at the teachings, the basis of unity through the years, we are Christian-based, but open to all different expressions of faith, different traditions, but we are based on the life and teachings of Jesus, and the Bible is our textbook, but we use spiritual truths that have been gleaned from other traditions. One of the terms for the unity movement is Unity School of Practical Christianity. And whether one likes that or not, that is our heritage, that is our teaching, but it's not that we exclude anybody, because we see that practical Christianity is embracing real spiritual truth that is from any faith or any tradition. So the term "we are a non-denominational church" can be a way to describe it, because we tend to be non-sectarian. We're not creedal. We're not dogmatic. And we accept people from different walks of life. So at Unity of Wichita, we had people who were Jewish. We had various types of Muslims. We had black Muslims. We had different kinds of Buddhists, different kinds of Hindus, people who didn't even use the word God, but, they could handle the word truth or connection, So it's entirely open to everybody. But to say that we are not Christian-based is inaccurate, according to our teachings and history. I mean, if you read the Fillmores, it's chock full of the Hebrew and Christian scriptures, constant references to Jesus. It's part of our tradition, but a person doesn't have to... See, it's about spiritual principles. So I'd warn us about, being dogmatic in our reaction to, because that's another form of being dogmatic, is when I hear of Jesus, or I hear about Sai Baba, or I hear about Krishna, or I hear about Ram Dass, or I hear about Amma Bhagwan, or I hear about Muji, I'm in love, because they're all representing and expressing and embodying that same one presence. I went into ecstasy. I told Johanna this morning that when I went into her office, lo and behold, she has a complete set. Oh, I don't know. Do you want people to know this? She has a complete set of the Zohar in her office. Now, most people don't know what the Zohar is, but the Zohar is one of the primary documents, study of Kabbalah. And there's about, 21 volumes of these thick books. And I went into ecstasy as I saw it. Again, August 14th, I'll be talking about discerning God in all paths. So it's not about being exclusive at all. But unity does talk about Jesus being our way shower. And it has just a little bit different flavor than Centers for Spiritual Living, which used to be called religious science. We have the same principles, the same teachings, basically, but there's a bit more Christian emphasis and focus in the unity movement. I'm just stating the way it is. It's not a personal opinion. It's just part of our history and teachings. I think it's on.
About when Sky was here, we never really talked that much about Jesus. He said he said we didn't have to bring the Bible. He would bring the Bible and read it for us. But there was one member of the church that did stand up one day or bring that topic up and said, "Well, do we believe in Jesus in this church or not?" And so then that question was brought forth. But until then, that it was not like that.
Okay.
It was just God. It wasn't nothing that we had to believe in Christ or that unity, or especially this church over here in the middle of the sea was to believe in the principles of unity. You're supposed to believe in Jesus the Christ. It was just not in our sermons.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Linda. All right. One more. Any other got to ask questions because we're running a little bit over.
I think it's the oneness that we need to understand, and that our emphasis is on commonalities, not differences.
Right.
And if you get your hands on that little book called Oneness, you will find with at least 10 or 12 different faiths
Right.
that whether it's the golden rule or some other,
Right.
that there's one in their teachings as well that just paraphrases it but still says the same thing.
Okay. Thank you. Is that everything? All right. So, quick question.
I'll give you my homework, but I do want it back. How do I get it back?
I'll give it back to you.
You will.
I will. Okay. So, thank you all for being here. If we could just pause, take a deep breath. We bless each person here. We bless all the comments, the questions, all the information. And we give thanks, and we are grateful. And so it is. Amen. And if you have those membership covenants, if you would turn those into Marcia, that'd be awesome. If you have homework, you could turn that in to me. Will that work? And thank you all for coming, for having time with us on a Sunday afternoon.
Hey, Marcia. Oh, Muriel wants to pick up Brayton. I want you to rate her 3-4.